This is the Olivetti Lettera DL, and this is not my first typewriter, no, but it is my most used typewriter by quite a long way. I got it for a steal, just 36 New Zealand dollars. Currently on eBay, they are going for about 100 to 400 US dollars. The Olivetti Lettera 33 is the overall basis of this machine, but it also goes by the name of PMC and also, like the one I've got, the DL. But I'm not entirely sure what the difference is. So I went out on a limb. I emailed Olivetti, which is now part of TIM Group, which I think means Telecom Italia Mobile, which has a long history of rebranding, I guess. They're the Internet of Things these days, but I thought I'd just pop them a message anyway and see what they could tell me. 1. How many Olivetti Lettera DL/33s were produced and how many were sold? 2. Apart from the 33 DL PMC variants, were there any other variants produced? If you can help at all, that would be fantastic and add a layer of richness to a video about a beautiful machine that means a lot to me. Kindest regards, Greg Pryor. I am not a robot. The Lettera DL is an example of the stabilized evolution of mechanical typewriters. They come with all the features you'd expect from a typewriter in a late stage evolution. A practical size carriage return lever that runs through to the next line with a simple push across. The paper support arms come up like a peace sign and keep your text in an easy to read state. Now, the margin set here allows you to determine the width of your page. As a guy who is just trying to write books, I couldn't give two shits about changing the margin size. In fact, I'm criminally bad at this. I'm inclined towards writing to the end of the plate. And this here is the line spacer, enabling you to chew through more or less paper depending on how good you want to feel about yourself. You know, set it to 3 and you can be like, I did 10 pages today. Here is the paper clamp, which is there to dash your dreams of a well-aligned page once you start typing and realize there is no going back. This page looks drunk. Paper bale here holds everything down against the platen, which I wrap in another bit of A4 paper because I am so cheap I may as well be Scottish. I don't want to ruin my platen roll. Then the carriage types to the end and you get a satisfying but unobtrusive ding, and I quite like it. Here's where the slug hits the platen. This array of type bars here is a spectacle of engineering that isn't so far from tangible it's hard to comprehend. It's just hard to comprehend that somebody was able to figure this out. The slugs strike out a beautiful courier font that is slightly compressed but fantastically readable. Action is brilliantly light in the initial key press before coming a little bit heavy towards the end of the keystroke, which is where the spring is stretched out to its maximum. But as a result, it strikes the paper with a fairly moderate force, and the shift of the carriage following it has a very reassuring clunk. The keyboard itself is a standard QWERTY layout with some options for shift, caps lock, tab set, and action with a bright red tab button. And a color switcher, if you give a damn about that. I basically never use red. I don't even know why I have a red and black ribbon. It's just pointless. All I am doing is writing fiction. The other interesting thing is there is no number 1 on the keyboard. In fact, there's a button here which releases the margins when you bugger it up, inevitably. Instead of 1, they've got, I think it's L. And every time I remember that the number 1 is the letter lowercase l, it brings me some sort of nostalgic delight that they were just sort of thinking ahead. The spacebar is the least satisfying of all the keys. It's got a very short action, very, very loose sound, and I don't particularly have any favorable thoughts regarding it. Unlike the other keys, which have got a very sort of dense sound to them, which is quite lovely. That one is just hollow almost, but it is wide and it is fairly easy to hit. Owning a typewriter, it's a commitment. And in a way, it being a semi-high maintenance device has compelled me to keep using it. There was rust on the bottom when I just got it. I used some sort of rust arrest liquid to sort that out, and now it looks kinda manky, I'm gonna be honest. I also had a problem with the feet. They're a rather shit little metal pins that don't hold on the rubberized feet all that well. And so I had my friend, Andrew Shishka, shout out Andrew, 3D print me another one, which did the trick, but it isn't rubberized. Now the case was absolutely falling apart, but just recently I went through and hand stitched the zipper back onto the case. So now it looks like it's in fairly good nick. Though you got to be sure to keep the inside nice and aired out every once in a while. They are inclined to get a little bit moldy. The inside of my case in particular is this sort of fluffy lining to it that when I got it was just covered in mold, and I dissolved the ends of my fingertips rubbing bleach on it to get it back to some sort of respectable state. Other than that, you'll need to keep this thing fairly dust free. It's got a fairly open keyboard and open array of type bars, and they are inclined to get a little bit dusty, especially if you're not using it that much. You should be using it, so make sure you keep that dust free so it doesn't gum up. There are other things that are sort of unavoidable though. So because of its age, I mean we're talking 50, 60 years, the plastic here on the sides, on the top mostly, has started to yellow, but unlike me, I think this thing is absolutely aging gracefully. And another note, I am in no way about preserving these typewriters to their perfect condition. These things are made to be used. I will use this and keep care of it, and hopefully it'll get passed down to my next generation. But rest assured, this thing is doing what it's designed to do. The value for me is in their function, not how much I can sell it for later. What do I like about this typewriter after 46,000 words? Well, for one, I like the fact that it's still going strong. I mean, it survived many words before me, and I'm hoping that with some tender love and care, it will survive many words after me as well. I like the fact that the keys are a light to heavy key action. It makes me feel nimble as I write, and I don't get much fatigue over prolonged sessions, especially compared to handwriting or other typewriters. Like, I'm looking at you, Hermes 3000. That thing has got a very, very heavy key press, and you can even dial in how heavy you want it to be, and it's still just, it's a tank, that thing. I really like the light body. This one has been from New Zealand to London and now to here, to Latvia, where I'm shooting this video, and has survived the journey in fairly good nick. I like the utilitarian but sort of semi-elegant design. My ex called this a ugly typewriter when I bought it. Safe to say, she is no longer on the scene, but it's not as much a flashy machine as the Valentine, which I also have and will review later on. But at the end of the day, you're not taking this to a coffee shop. The clacking alone is only nice for you. Don't even think about taking a typewriter to a coffee shop. You do live in 2024 as of the shooting of this video, and so far, that courtesy hasn't changed as far as I'm aware. Don't be an asshole. I also like the keyboard is not a Mount Everest. You don't have to climb up and down the keyboard just to get what you want typed out. But also the keys, which are a sort of like a reverse tombstone, are quite stable. So you've got confidence in your key press, and it happens to fit my fingers quite nicely. Not everything is sunshine and roses though. The feet aren't grippy enough. The typewriter is prone to sliding around the table, and I do plan to re-rubberize the feet or make new ones somehow. It can also skip sometimes. It's a very light typewriter, and I don't know if this is a problem that I have with my typing being a bit too vigorous, but occasionally it's inclined to bounce. And if it happens at the wrong moment, it'll be partway through a word and you'll skip a couple of notches, and so you have a word with a big old gap in the middle. And it'll 100% do this if you are trying to type on your lap. As much as it feels like you should be doing this, don't do it. Just get yourself a nice stable surface. Treat your writing with some sort of respect. And then there are just the me problems. I don't really take the time to line up the page properly, and as a result I end up with sort of wonky stuff happening. I'll be typing across the page slightly on like a 3-degree angle, so it starts in the corner and finishes in the other corner. It looks just awful. Other typewriters, like the Hermes 3000 that I talked shit about earlier, actually has some guides in the carriage here that will enable you to sort of set the correct width for your paper. In this case I'm using A4. And also I'm shit at setting up the margins, so often I'll put the page in the wrong place, and then as I'm typing I'll get to the ding and it's way the hell over on the other side, and you'll end up typing off the edge of the page and straight onto the platen. Just take the time to set up your page properly. Then there's the other issue, which is a very modern issue. You see, I like to type with a bit of music playing. It varies from day to day. What it is doesn't matter. The fact is I've got headphones on and I can't hear the ding. And I like to touch type, so I'm often sort of looking around and typing, or not even looking at the keyboard. And if I don't know the edge of the page is coming and I don't hear the ding, I'll type until it seizes up. And then you have to release it and finish the word, or if you've run out of space, you've just got to leave it and go to the next line. I know this is a draft, but it's rather infuriating. And at the end of the book, a typewriter isn't going to be for everybody. They can be finicky bastards at the best of times, but through a bit of attention, they'll last a lifetime and beyond. I mean, this one's probably getting to the end of somebody's lifetime. Whoever the first owner was must be pretty old by now. And I will maintain this stance forever. A typewriter can never be obsolete. It is fairly unmatched, in my opinion, in this day and age at doing the following. It can help you get to a level of focus from a time gone by. The rhythm of the keystrokes, at least for me, are like a metronome for my brain to imagine and create and flow. It's also the sound of work, hopefully meaning people will leave you the hell alone while you write. Now, not all typewriters are created equal, but this is the Olivetti Lettera DL, one of the tall poppies of the bunch. And that is definitely worth its weight in paper.